Hello, everyone, and welcome to our July Fosters Forums. I'm Jason A. Sparks. I am the President and Executive Director of Fosters, and we are so thrilled to have the incredible co-host of the Mutha Podcast with us today, Shonica Gooden, Chloe Cambell, and Khori Petinaud. And we'll also be joined by Fosters board member Ahmad Simmons as well. And if you're a regular, you'll know Ahmad from many of our other Fosters forums. If you're new to Fosters forums, welcome. If you're new to Fosters, welcome. Fosters is a nonprofit that was founded to change how we make theater here in the United States. And we're actually coming up on our 1-year anniversary of being founded. That was in August of 2020. So far, we've done 3 residencies, 2 entitled Cultivating Curiosity and a spring residency, all that supported new playwrights' work, as well as a place for actors to go to reconnect with their own artistry. We've done 10 Fosters Forums. This is our 11th. Fosters Forums is our monthly reach out to the community where we connect you with leaders and thinkers and innovators within the theater community. And then we're upcoming, we have a fall residency that we'll be doing. We're very excited. This is going to be kind of our first in-person attempt after the long year that we've all been through, as well as we're gonna be having a gala later at the end of the year. All of our programming here at Fosters comes at no additional financial burden to our participants. That means anybody who's accepted into one of our residencies does not pay to do it. And this is all because of the incredibly generous donations from our donors, from the people who believe in the mission that we're setting out to do. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider making a donation. There's 2 very easy ways to do that. One is just to go to Venmo. You can Venmo us at Fosters Residency, and it literally $2, $5, $10 makes a huge difference in how we can support artists through our programming. You can also make a tax-deductible donation by going to our website, www.fostersresidency.org. Now, why everybody's really here tonight, I know that. I want to get to our incredible guests for tonight's evening. A quick introduction of each of them. First of all, if you haven't checked out the Mutha Podcast, please do. You can check it out on Spotify, Google, or YouTube. It is super refreshing, and I'm really excited to have everyone here with us today. First, we have Shonica Gooden. She's a triple threat performer from Atlanta, Georgia. She also went to Point Park University, where she received a BFA in dance. Some of her credits, she made her Broadway debut with Bring It On. She also did Fly out at La Jolla Playhouse. Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope at City Center. You could have seen her as Cats as Rumple Teaser. She also did the national tour of Matilda and Hamilton on Broadway. We also have Khori Petinaud. She's a New York City-based performer and educator. She studied at the Dance Theater of Harlem and North Carolina School for the Arts and has her BFA in dance from NYU. She made her Broadway debut in Aladdin and is currently in Moulin Rouge. And then we also have the amazing Chloe Cambell, who you will hear hails from London, England, but has been living here in the US for 10 years. She's performed in the West End in shows like On the Town, and on Broadway in shows like Tuck Everlasting and King Kong. All of these incredible artists are also mothers. That's why we're here today. So please help me in welcoming all of the Mutha co-hosts, podcast co-hosts. Come on in, and Ahmad. Everyone knows Ahmad, so come on in. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Y'all, I'm so excited and so thrilled today, and so happy to see some of your beautiful babies too. Thank you for all of your beautiful babies. There we go.
Intro.
Oh my gosh.
Give us, introduce your beautiful babes.
Oh, well, this is Grant Parker Williams, my little nugget, who came into this world in the cold month of January. He is my firstborn baby, and I am super excited and honored to be his mommy. And that is why I'm here today.
This is Carver Elijah Petinaud. Say hi. And Carver was born on December 29th, 2020. So he closed out the year. And yes, I'm very proud to be this little boy's mom. He'll be 7 months in like 2 days, actually. It's just crazy.
Hi, this is Cambell. I'm going to let her do what she's doing because we don't know how long this will last before she wants to come back to the laptop. So I'm just really trying to give this good energy. She's now 13 months. She was born June 23rd, 2020. Yes, that's right. We're talking about you.
Is that me?
I'd love to first let all of our viewers know, how did y'all meet each other and what started, like I said in the intro, I encourage everyone to go listen to the Mutha Podcast. I loved it. I'm a fan. It is some real honest talk about what it's like to be a mother. But how did this start? How did this come about?
Look, we're like, who's jumping in? I see all of our well, you know what? Robert Hartwell, who is the founder of the Broadway Collective, is a good friend of Khori and I, and he had, I guess, at one point must have been listening to all of our stories about our postpartum time, along with our other co-hosts who couldn't join us today, Kelsey Griffin, and he was like, and Tiffany Evariste as well. He was like, you guys need to connect. You guys have the same similar stories. You all are in the industry together. We all are familiar and we all really are friends, especially Khori and I. We've been friends for years. So we already had that connection. And so we just thought to follow through on it. At first, we didn't really have a name. We kept calling it the Untitled Mommy Podcast. And really just started random Zoom conversations. We just were connected on random Zoom conversations as we were going through this journey together, especially since most of our kids are so close in age. And we were like, you know what, this really works. And it also started because there was so much about the postpartum time that we wish people had told us, that we wish that, sometimes people find that time to be so traumatizing that they don't want to necessarily scare anybody. But we felt that there's a place of empowerment with the knowledge, as opposed to it being, fear-based. And we wanted to be able to give that to people so that they can feel empowered in comforting themselves and empowered as they walk through this new, especially as a new mom journey, and especially as Black mothers. We didn't see a lot of Black mothers in the birthing and podcast arena. And so, especially in America. And so we wanted to be that voice, as well as our unique characteristic of us all being in the industry, which is a whole other thing within itself. So that's how we connected to do the podcast. Did I leave anything out, girls?
What I think is also so amazing is not only are you all mothers, new mothers, but you're also artists. And I don't think that is talked a lot about. We were talking briefly about, there was maybe this, I don't want to call it old school, but there was kind of a mentality that used to be you had to leave the business in order to start a family, right? Or you had to be established so that you could leave the business in order to start a family. But what, y'all are, again, I was saying y'all are so brave. Y'all are so, you had kids during a pandemic and you're saying, I'm going to be a working mother. Number one, I just want to underline, I think that is really amazing. I think that takes a lot of courageous power of your own to do that. But what do you think is that shift, or what was that shift for you that said, you know what, I'm going to do this incredibly hard job of being a mother and do this incredibly hard job of being an artist, a working artist as well? Yeah, that's my kind of first question to you.
Oh, wait, I saw you on mute. You want to go first? Well, for me, I had some very specific examples but they were few. But I had some examples of women in the business that were doing this already. And I was like, it's possible for me to do it. People like Bahia Hibba, Ashley Fitzgerald, Robin Herder, people who actually came back better than ever after they had their children. And for me, that was such a huge inspiration, to know that your life is not over when you have a baby. You're not handicapped. You can do all of the things that you could do before, and actually you might come back even better. And I think there's a lot of fear around what it looks like. What does your dance career or your artistic career look like after you have a child? Because it is a different balance, but there are so many moms that are doing it in the business. And so that was really inspiring for me. Would I have chosen to have gotten pregnant in the pandemic? Not necessarily, but I was trying to have a baby before that. And I kind of ended up in an ideal situation where we felt like it was a good time, because I was in a show that was proving to be rather successful and that was going to be staying open, which unfortunately is sometimes the thing that we have to think about too as artists. Like, if you're in a Broadway show, does this show have longevity for you to go and have a baby and come back? And that was part of the reason why, for me, it took a little bit longer than I may have liked it, because I had been in and out of gigs for a little bit, and really wanted to be in a show that I knew had a little bit of longevity so that I could come back. And then, the pandemic, so it didn't really matter.
I would say that firstly, they do not make it easy for you to try and be a working mum at all. Like, it is, and I'm speaking from someone that is not employed and not in the show. And it's just really hard to try and navigate that. And it's funny because I do know mums in the business, but I don't know anyone that actually talks about it. And so that's why I'm really excited for our podcast. And like, obviously in season 2, we'll get to that kind of stuff, won't we, Cambell? Because like, there's just so much that I really didn't think about naively, or you're just more concerned with being pregnant and how the birth will be, you don't think of like everything after. And I have to say that this pandemic has been like a weird blessing in disguise for me, as much as there's been like awful parts of it. It's been really hard, but like not having that anxiety of trying to get back to work or going back to auditions has been like really helpful. And I've had like very extreme ends of the spectrum in terms of job opportunities, because I just did a workshop with Chase Brock Experience, his dance company, and it was he is someone that practices what he preaches. He is like a true advocate for everyone. He called me up and asked, I want you to do this. What do you need? I know you have a baby. What's her nap schedules? What works for you? What times work for you? Like, went above and beyond, got money in the budget to pay for someone to look after Cambell. It was like unbelievable. And I think like a lot of us are expecting after a year off that people and companies have thought about these things and are willing to try and be inclusive. And then I also had another job opportunity that there was just no way I could make it work, because they basically didn't care at all that I would have a 1-year-old with me. Didn't do anything within their, like, just didn't do anything to try and help me at all. It literally was like, well, and this wasn't from the company, but someone within it, like, where everyone has families, so like you can't do one thing for one and like not another for another, like. And it's just sad because that's how it's always been. So that's how people are thinking. And my heart goes out to all the parents before, because it's really hard. But I'm just like, when are we going to move on from that? Because we can't keep thinking like that. And a 7-year-old is different to a 1-year-old. They have different needs. I can't just leave a baby. It's yes, you good? And so you would think, oh, they have a 1-year-old. Oh, okay. Let's try and help them out. However, many companies are not Chase Brock, is all I'm going to say. So it's been very interesting to kind of navigate it all. And I totally understand why people are like, I can't be a performer and have babies. It's too hard. because it's really, really hard. But saying that, it's kind of was never an option for me not to perform again, because I love performing so much. So yeah.
You know, I'm wondering, like, the mothers that you saw, like you mentioned by Bahia, like, what was the advice from them in relationship to how they were able to bring their kids into their own process and go back to work? Were there things that they cautioned you about, you know, or certain companies are better than others, or producers better than others, you know, like, was that a part of that conversation when you were getting, you know, wisdom from mothers you had seen do it?
Not necessarily for me. I actually got a lot of encouraging information, because I think for me, the thing that I was more worried about, I was less worried about, like, are people going to help me figure out being a mom while trying to navigate the industry. I was actually more concerned about, like, my person, like my body, and how I would recover from this thing, and whether I'd be able to do the same things I could do before, and all of that. And Bahia specifically, because she was with me during my whole, oh, sorry, my iPod fell out, he grabbed it. She was with me during my whole, like, fertility moment in Moulin Rouge, when I was, like, drinking Chinese herbs and, like, doing the whole thing to try and get pregnant. And we were talking a lot about it, and she was like, girl, you're gonna be fine. You just have to trust your body. Like, she was giving me more of a calm perspective, and less of, like, this is going to be hard and you got to manage this and you got to manage this. It was more like, just trust your body, because it's going to be fine. And that was really helpful for me, especially at that point, because, you know, I was doing the hardest show I've ever done in my career, and I was also trying to get pregnant, and I was just feeling a little overwhelmed by the whole idea of it. And she really kind of brought me back down to earth. Like, you are not the first person to do this, and you won't be the last, and it's possible, you know?
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was kind of like, they gave us advice by doing, as opposed to verbal, you know, conversations, even though we're really close to her. Like she said, which I think is really remarkable, is that the women in my life that are artists as well as mothers were more concerned about my spirit, you know, my inner talk with myself and my body. Khori is so spot on with it. That is more of their concerns. And then if you ask for, like, you know, there's a different mom Facebook groups out there with artists on it, where if you want to know the daycare and the pediatrician and all this and that, they have that. But I found that a lot of the artist moms were more concerned about, how's your spirit? You know, how are you inside? Because as artists, we are so in tune. You need to be so in tune with our spirits and our inner selves, because that's where our artistry comes from. And so that was a lot of the conversation. But as far as how to mother in this industry, it was through action. It was through watching someone like Sarah Ford bring her baby into the dressing room because the nanny couldn't pick them up at a particular hour. And she's just like, guys, can she make a pallet on the floor? We're like, absolutely. Let's put a cat nose on it. You know, it was, you know, watching Bahia go back and forth to upstate just to twist her, you know, son's hair to spend time with him. Right? You know, it's just like, or watching Jill Abramovitz, like, bring her son to work to see the horse and carriages so that he familiarizes himself with where his mommy is going when she's leaving him at night to go do the show that she loves. So it was like Hetty Barnhill and Steph Clemens bringing their child on a plane as babies, breastfeeding them in the middle of, you know, rehearsing. And, you know, that is what I got my experience through watching them do it.
Yeah.
Through their vulnerability. You saw tears, you saw joy. I've seen every emotion in these mothers, but I did not see them give up on their passion and still be able to remain incredible mothers at the same time. And so that, I feel like it was less through like, here are the ABCs, you know, and it was more like just really checking in, because everybody knows how sensitive of a time that can be, especially for a dancer, when you're used to having control of your body, and, you know, you can't control what's going on with your body as it's, you know, preparing space for a human being and then giving birth to that human being, and then the body going in forward motion that you can't stop. I'm learning that through Stephanie and Hetty, is we have to say forward motion instead of like the snap back. The
Mhm.
body snapping forward, and then you have to become, enjoy the snap forward of the body while at the same time learn how to be a mom. But yeah, I learned through their actions and just observing them and them being open and vulnerable with us when they had moments of I don't know what to do.
Y'all both bring up such a beautiful point that I'm super interested in, is the person. And it's why I love, especially the mental, health episode. It was so incredible to me because you were talking about the person and how, you're right. So we have to give so much of ourselves in every single moment of what we do. But how does that recovery come into play, and where do you start with that? I know you're talking about postpartum. There's a lot there. But we talk a little bit more about the person since we're there, and like how you prepared that, or is there a way to prepare that? Did you find yourself in
Honestly, honestly, that's what we hope to do with the podcast, is to give people some spiritual toolbox stuff, because we didn't have it. We had to create it for ourselves. We had to create our own spiritual toolbox, which everybody has to do, whether that be including certain books, journals, affirmations, um, whatever it is that you need. But that really is truly kind of embedded in our work with the podcast. And we're not just trying to keep bringing up the podcast to promote it. We're saying it because that is the genuine inspiration behind it, is to be able to give women tools so that we can help them have that jump off point that you're talking about, because we're all still in the journey. It hasn't ended, you know what I mean? We're still figuring it out every single day, especially being that life is reopening. I don't even want to say just the industry, just like life is reopening. So, you're also going from being in your own little bubble with your family to now re-entering the world's bubble and trying to take care of your mental and spiritual health as a mom, still going through postpartum. One of our co-hosts, Kelsey, was telling us that she read that postpartum actually lasts 2 years. And a lot of people only talk about the time period of the 6 months after, which it really is much. I mean, Chloe can attest to that, she's a year in now and she still is like, going through her journey. And Hetty, her daughter, I believe she's 2 or 3. Vi is like 2 years old, and she still is on her healing journey. So it's a forever process that I think women need to understand, so that you can have grace for yourself while you're going through that process. And I think the fellas go through it too. Fathers go through their own version of postpartum as well, because life has changed for them as well, and even though they didn't carry the life in their body, they were there to support, and their world got flipped upside down in a beautiful way also. And so there's an evolution that has to happen for them. There's a sacrifice that has to happen for them too. And while at the same time trying to support yourself, you're trying to support each other, so there's that spiritual thing. So I would say that there I mean there is, yes, there's a jump off point that we hope to give through our tools, but at the same time it's an ever growing journey, because you're learning, they're changing every day, and you're hoping to evolve with them as they continue to change, you know but
Yeah, and can I also interject, sorry, Shonica, and say also that the experience that we've had, because it's been an extremely unique one, because we've had babies in the midst of a huge shutdown that has never happened in our industry ever before. But I will say that going through this journey in the way that we have has had me have so much more compassion for women who didn't have, I don't want to say the luxury of a pandemic, but kind of, to actually have the space to really go through the roller coaster that is postpartum. Because I think about how many women go back to work after, in the normal world, 6 weeks. And I guess in the Broadway world, sometimes we can have a little bit more time than that, but they go back to work and people see your external, right? And they see like, maybe you look great and you're smiling and you're moving around, but that there's so much happening in your heart and spirit that is really tumultuous and sometimes extremely traumatic, and you're walking in the world and people are seeing one version of you, and so you feel like you kind of have to mask all of these other things. And I think that we have had the blessing of being able to actually sit with ourselves in the midst of all of this and to really manage those emotions. I mean, I don't want to speak for Shonica and Chloe, but for me, myself, I've felt like I've really felt the gravity of becoming a mother so heavily because of the pandemic. And I'm not sure that I would have allowed myself the space for that if the world had been open, because I would have been like, all right, I gotta like hurry up and get back in my show and like get my body back together and da 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 da. And like part of that is my spirit. Like anyone who knows me will know that that's kind of my energy anyway. But I do think that the pandemic had to pull me back. It snatched me back a little bit, and it was like, girl, you've got to deal with the gravity of this moment. And I really, really appreciate that, because mentally and spiritually, trying to skip moments and parts of this is not healthy. And I imagine that a lot of moms had to do that. I remember having conversations with a friend of mine who's in the business who now has 2 kids. And she said with her first child, she really was like trying to jump back in, and she ended up getting injured really badly, and emotionally and spiritually, she just was not right. And I think it was because she was trying to move too quickly. So I really feel so grateful that all of us have had varying degrees of space from the hustle and bustle of the business to really kind of deal with the emotional health that we need to manage having babies,
Yeah, I basically just agree with everything that you both have said. And it is that, yes, she's like, hold my hand, I want to walk around. And because I was actually pregnant before this whole pandemic happened. And so sorry, my eyes are like, ah. And so the thought of, I had so much anxiety when I was pregnant, just in terms of thinking about having to get back to work and thinking about having to like get back in shape and all of that. So it has been great to have this time to just really like, because it's such a roller coaster. It's such a roller coaster. And it's so nice to have this time. And I'm so grateful that I got a year just to be with my baby, be with myself, and figure it out. And that's why maternity leave is so important. And coming from the UK, where it's standard to get a year's maternity leave, it just blows my mind that here people are like back at work in 6 weeks. I mean, I think back to when Cambell was 6 weeks old, there's just no way I could leave my child. And, these women don't have a choice, but like mentally, you are not there. Physically, you are not there. It is so all-consuming that you really need that time. And it's something that even though I had friends that had babies, you just cannot wrap your head around it until you have a child. And it's funny because I was just away doing this thing, and so my friend was looking after Cambell when I was in rehearsals, and she was like, I'm so sorry. She said, I thought I understood, but I had no idea. And she was like, I did it for like a week and a half. I just like, yeah. So it's just, I mean, it's no one's fault. You just don't understand until you go through it. But yeah, I think you need that time and that space. And yeah, it's crazy. It's a roller coaster.
And talk about 6 weeks. Like, I couldn't even walk at 6 weeks. I was like dragging I couldn't even get in my bed for the first 3 weeks. So you want me to be ready to work at 6 weeks? How? It's like, it's not even possible. So, yeah.
And I think Chloe mentioned it. So many people don't have that choice, which is crazy. They don't have to. I know Khori has to get going. Khori, thank you so much for joining us for this little bit. Thank you. I want to jump into, so we talked a little bit about, and Chloe, you sharing about your great experience with Chase Brock, but a lot of our past fosters forums, we've talked about what we can do as a community to change theater and how we support this community. And we've done that in many other ways. And I'd love to hear firsthand from moms in the business, what is 1 or 10 or a million things that you feel, like what can be done to help support you as a working artist, as a new mother and a working artist?
I think, and I'm really interested to hear Shonica's point of view too, because you have jobs that you definitely are going to want certain things. And for me, I feel like the number one thing is childcare. But I mean, that goes with every job. That's not just in our business. That's around, that's everywhere. And that the new tax credit to try and help with that has actually is great. But yeah, I just think like trying to navigate that is so difficult. It's really difficult. And auditions are just starting to come back, and it's how do you navigate getting someone to look after your baby while you run to an audition, or when you're in shows, if your partner's like doing, working as well. I'm gonna mute for a second.
No, yeah, totally. I mean, it would be, I'm going to tell you my dream list that in the reality of where our industry is right now sounds like a dream. However, I don't think that it's absurd, and I don't think that it's impossible, because if you look at corporate America, it exists. Like I was doing research because I have to go out of town for a job soon. And this week, as a matter of fact, with a 7-month-old baby, that I just had to spend $230 at FedEx that I might not get back just so he can be comfortable. There's things like that. But like, in corporate America, these women get things that you don't think about. Their breast milk to be shipped, paid for. They get childcare stipend or even a discount at a particular daycare. Someone else in our business who is a costume designer and is a part of that union, and she was saying, why don't all the unions get together and figure out how they can connect with the daycare system or center and at least get us a discounted rate, or some place where we all can send our kids together, and have childcare, because it is so expensive. I mean, I'm talking $25 an hour on the low end, $45 an hour on the high end for a nanny that doesn't live with you. Or I even saw just for Tuesday and Thursday, $20,000 a year to take a 7-month-old baby. Yeah, and I live in New York City and got to pay my rent. Okay, and the other side of that, I do know that there are some producers that do give childcare stipends, and God bless them for that. The other thing is thinking about COVID. I have had a recent experience, and I will keep I'll keep that under wraps, but a recent experience where we need to really have compassion and understanding for mothers walking into these spaces that, I know there's like a fully vaccinated mandate for certain casts, but if we're partnering and things like that with numbers going up, if people ask like, hey, do you mind being tested just so I can have that extra comfortability, so I have no inhibitions, support that mother, support them, and just so that they can walk into that space and they can have the freedom to create, just being comfortable and knowing and trusting that, having that extra reassurance that they're not going to bring anything back to their baby, because we're now learning that full vaccination with these new variants coming along, you can still get very sick, So I do appreciate, those producers that are requiring testing at least once a week. And that sounds like something that people can feel uncomfortable about, but you got to put yourself in our shoes where, these children can't advocate for themselves. And if they're under the age of 12, they can't be vaccinated. Now, granted, they do get antibodies through our breast milk and everything like that. But even just think about if mommy falls sick, how do we really take care of them? Just different things like that. So just really being cautious, even in your everyday life as well, when you are having, people with families, even in your cast, as we start to reopen. And the sad part is you go back into your performer brain and you ask yourself, like, is this too much of an ask? Oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want my employment to be affected by saying anything. But you start to get that mother lioness energy within you. And it's like, it doesn't matter how ridiculous the world may feel about it. You have to protect your baby. You have to advocate for them, and your feelings are valid in this. And so that's something that I feel like in the new world that we live in, it's just something that I hope that our industry, that our unions can also support us in not loosening up these safety protocols, really being diligent about them, the same as how the TV and film industry has been very diligent about the testing every week, the testing daily. It is so important because COVID world is changing every day, and we all have to be willing to adapt and shift with it so that we can protect the investment of the cast, the investment of the backstage crew, so we can keep doing this thing that we love, is the way that I sort of view it. And I've experienced two different sides. I experienced an employer where they did test us every week, and just the freedom that was in that space of that extra reassurance to know that, like, we all took the test at the same time and we all knew we all were good, and there was a respect in the room to just be really adamant about what we were doing in our everyday lives after, we left this space with one another. And I can't emphasize that enough. And because it's so fresh on my mind, I just wanted to thank you, Jason and Ahmad, for allowing us to have the space to talk about that. But because it's fresh on my mind, I just really want to put that out there, because you asked, how the industry can support us in that, and just moving with compassion and understanding. If you don't understand, and you can email us with compassion, because as mothers re-entering the workspace, it's a lot on our mental health. It's a lot for everybody. Imagine you just caring for one person. Now we're thinking about our families too, so just love on them when they're in their space. You give the mothers and the fathers too, that extra love, when you're in that space with them. I would say the child, but the child care, ooh, Jesus, that's a real thing. Because right now, when I was in pre-rehearsals, especially because we're all not quite making our Broadway money just yet. It feels like you're paying to go to work, because because we don't have,
and
not like you
also,
stacked up.
like a lot of people, they're literally working to pay for childcare in like any job. I have friends back home, and she's like, is this even worth me working? Because she has two and she just went back to work, and she's just like, it's not. And that's why so many people leave. It's really not that easy to stay within the industry, because it's just is it beneficial? And then you have those jobs where you're like, oh God, I'm just doing this job, but like it's not fulfilling me or whatever. And when you have a child, it's even more. I literally can't afford to do this. Yeah. So yeah, that's like a massive thing. And also, yes, I agree, Shonica, in terms of just people just being compassionate and supportive. And even if you don't necessarily understand, just being there and just being like, hey.
Shonica, that hit home for me, what you just said about COVID too. I'll be very honest with you. I never even thought of that. I'm not that any disclosures. I'm somebody who's vaccinated, and I'm always saying get vaccinated as soon as I could. I never even thought of that. Like, you bringing that up, I think is huge. It hit so home to be like, yeah, you don't know if this person you're being intimate with on stage, or in this number, you could be taking something home to their 7th or 13th month old child, or like that. That's huge.
That was actually a massive one for me too. Just when they decided, oh, we don't need masks anymore, and I'm like, cool, good for you, good for the people that are vaccinated. The people that don't want to, that aren't vaccinated, don't want to wear masks. But I'm like, my child literally doesn't have a choice, and I hate it when we're on the subway, and people are just stood next to her with no mask on. I'm just like, cool for you, but she cannot wear a mask and she's not vaccinated. So please step away or put a mask on. It's so inconsiderate.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, being vaccinated is a choice, and I understand that people have cultural and religious reasons as to why they don't want to, and I actually respect those reasons. I'm just asking that, our industry and our union, since that is going to be the case, that we really, really don't think about the money part of the safety plan. That if we want to do this and we want it to be done right, and we respect the artists that are really risking their lives to put on this show, that is a thought, that becomes a part of the thought process. And I know everybody wants to walk into work and feel comfortable. Everybody wants to walk into work and not feel like, I'm touching my partner. I don't want to, and I don't want to make you feel that way. I want to walk in and make you also know that I'm good too. So we have to think about that. That's the world we live in now.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if they kept the testing going for the next year. At least because this Delta variant, we're going into winter. Mm-hmm. I think the testing is important.
Because it gives exactly what I was thinking, because it gives us another year of not padding, but that assurance that we can enter a space completely open, right? Especially after the year we've had and what we had last summer. There's so much about our safety as artists, as people of color, going back into that room in this industry. And so to just have that one more thing to add to that inclusion conversation that we're already having, that's we got to imagine that inclusion conversation is protecting our mothers, protecting our parents in that room, so they can enter from 10 to 6 and be completely taken care of and open. And that's just going to make your process better. You as a producer.
And the answer is not, then just don't come. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's not the answer. And I know that they probably are some people listening who are saying well, as a parent, why don't you just decide to, that can't be the only option. I should be able to still go and make magic and provide for my child and feel safe in the environment. And as my employer, you should be willing to make that happen for me the same as you're doing for everybody else in different ways. So I just want to put that out there as well. That to me is not an option.
And that's a big part of why, I say it all the time, but why I love what Foster's is all about, is because it's taking care of every part of the artist, every part of you, so that you can, because the art that is made is a result of where you are in your state of mind, in your state of being, in your body, in your spirit, in your faith, whether there is faith there or not faith there, whether you're questioning that roller coaster, Chloe, you're talking about, that all comes into the process by way, comes out into what we share, so those conversations have to be fueled with full self, and so I appreciate hearing that.
To slightly this is a great conversation. To slightly shift it, there are a few questions from people that, like I said, whenever we announce it coming in, I'm going to put two of them together. As new moms, how do you feel about the ways that motherhood is portrayed in art or film or TV? And have you felt a shift maybe in what you want to create since you've become a mother, or not?
You know, I've always tried to move in my career with integrity. Ahmad and Chloe know me. They know me very well. They know Shanika does not mind saying no. If it don't roll with what my spirit is saying and what my spirit is needing, I just can't do it. Anytime I've tried to go against that, against my gut, the experience has always just been terrible because I'm so spiritually connected. You know, I do believe in God, and I just know that whatever he tells me in my spirit, that's how I move. And whenever I try to go against that, it doesn't. So that hasn't changed for me. It definitely hasn't changed. But what it has done is made me advocate for myself that much more. It's made me have a more, be a little bit more fearless about speaking up for myself in these spaces, which I feel like, especially as dancers, a dancer's mentality is to, you know, not, don't talk, don't speak. You just do what it is that they want you to do. And as a mother, I think that has had to shift. But it has made me think about actually the things that I want to do outside of the business, the other businesses that I want to put energy into, the generational wealth that I want to build, and how I want to build that have absolutely nothing to do with me being a Broadway performer. Other things that define me. That's what it's made me think about, because now I have extra motivation because he's watching, and I want him to know that he can do anything, that he's capable of doing that. And I want to be able to provide that type of life for him where I am creating that generational wealth, so that whatever he wants to me, me to invest in, I'll be able to do that with no problem. So it's made me think about the things I want to do outside of the business, more than anything, because I always feel like I've always moved with integrity, and I am really picky about the type of work that I do. So that hasn't changed, but it's the other stuff. It's the other things that are going to define me later on. She's like, one.
Sorry, feeding Cambell. Yes, so in terms of what we see on TV for mothers or pregnant women, it's just like, here you go. I hope she wants that. Do they ever do this in a movie? No, I think it's just, it would be great if they kind of, I think maybe we just need more like women writers going on, people with experience, because I just feel like they kind of skip over things. Or sometimes, they try, but it's kind of, we don't want to offend, or we don't want to, it's, what was the Frida TV commercial that they wouldn't air? And it's just so raw and real. It was incredible. And having gone through it, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly how it felt. But it's too offensive, which is hysterical, because the stuff they show on TV and in movies and all the rest of it, the mind boggles. But I just, sorry, I'm like trying to feed her. She's like, I don't want this.
What is this commercial you're talking about? I'm sorry. I'm
okay,
sorry.
so you gotta look it up. It's Frida postpartum. So Frida is a brand, and they kind of do a lot of stuff for new moms or pregnant women. Cambell, you're killing me. And it basically is showing a woman I guess just after, or the few days after they're given birth, and she's like on the toilet trying to pee, and then you have to use what do you call that thing again, Shanika?
A perineal bottle.
Perineal bottle. You have to basically squirt while you're peeing because it hurts so much. It's just showing all the raw what happens that you never hear about. Have I got a little dinosaur with me? So yeah, I just kind of, and that's not for everyone. And then has anyone seen, this may be controversial, is it Fatherhood, that movie that's on Netflix? I was trying to watch it, and I have other friends that are like, oh, it's so good. And I watched the beginning, and I was just like, this is nothing.
That's not the new Kevin Hart one, is
No,
it?
Yeah. But you know what? Keep watching it. But you know who has probably on TV the most authentic version of what I've seen of motherhood is Working Moms on Netflix.
Working
That
Moms.
show is like authentic.
Yes,
I
and-
mean, it's
And Shanika, I don't know if you know about this one, The Letdown. Have you heard of The Letdown?
no.
It's Australian. And that, oh my God, it's like they saw my soul. Like the first few episodes were so good. There's one on sleep training, and I was like, oh my gosh, because no one ever talks about sleep training. I didn't know anything about sleep training, or you just have to let them cry and cry and cry, and you're so tired. You're just like, oh my God, I hate this. Also, you don't have to do sleep training, however we wanted to. But yeah, The Letdown, I feel like it's starting to happen with these women writers that are coming in and just like telling it how it is. But, you know, it's like just beginning to happen now. And then the second part was, do I view my career differently, correct?
Yeah, or what kind of art has that shifted, and what kind of art you want to create?
Yeah, so I definitely feel torn in two ways, because there's the side of me that's like, I just want to get a job so I can get my health insurance and have money and like pay the bills. You know what I mean? And I guess that goes for anyone, whether you're like a parent or not. But there's that thing of like, I will maybe sacrifice stuff so I can like have the day with my child, be on a schedule, like know what, blah, 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 blah. And then there is the other half that you like get an audition, you're like, is it worth it? No. And before, you know, I would have definitely been like, I'm going to go to every audition just because like I want to go and get my like blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, okay, like how do I figure out someone looking after Cambell while I go, you know, and this is only just beginning now that they're like having in person, because it's all just been self-tapes. But that is definitely something that you're kind of like, okay, now I actually really have to think, is it worth it? And it could be, is it worth it artistically? Or is it worth it money-wise, financially? So there's definitely like the two ways too, which is hard, because then there are some artistic jobs you're like, I want to do this, even if it just about pays for childcare. You know what I mean? It's so hard. It's so hard. And then do you kind of sacrifice your artistic integrity because you can't afford it?
What is she eating?
She's having lentils. She loves tomato. She's just, look at this one.
Hey.
You're giving angel face now. She's having lentils, tomato, and avocado, but she wants none of the avocado. So
You're not having it today. Grant, I see you smiling. Both of them, they're so smiley.
I mean, I definitely can say our children do have a lot of joy, despite them basically being locked up in home jail for, you know, the first portions of their life. They have a lot of joy.
I will say, I feel like they have that because they had both their parents with them.
I would love to know about that, because do you feel like kids, they learn, do you feel like they learn joy? Is that something that comes out? Is it a product of environment? Because I believe a child learns joy by seeing your face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And our pediatrician clocked it when he was even like 2 months. She was like, you guys give him a lot of love at home, a lot of attention. He's so happy. And we were like, is she trying to tell us that we spoil our kid? I don't believe in you can spoil their babies. Like, come on. And she was like, no, I just can tell that he gets a lot of attention and a lot of love, and it's so beautiful. And you know, we go to a majority white pediatrician. We are one of very few Black clientele there. And me and my husband are very into street style. And so, you know, I'm sure there is this preconceived assumption of who we are and what we are about. And so I really walk around with a lot of pride, you know, being Black love and a Black couple with this beautiful Black happy son. Like it means to me. And also in my pregnancy, to make sure that I joy over him. I really was really adamant about like how much positivity can I have coming flowing into our home, flowing into my spirit, because I really believe like that connection through the belly is so real. And I lost my grandmother last year, who I was, you know, about that was she was like my rock. And the first thing my mother-in-law said to me was like, you know, your grandma would want you to keep your spirit right for that baby. And I'm so glad that she like brought me back to, not saying that I wasn't allowed to mourn, but just like how I would mourn and thinking about him, you know, and what that would be like for him, giving him a chance to have joy, you know, because I do think there's something that happens within the belly of like how a mother is experiencing pregnancy, what she's experiencing during her pregnancy that definitely affects the baby's personality, their energy that they come out with. I think that's I really believe that that's like very real. So I was adamant about the joy because I need a joyous baby.
Well, this hour has just flown by. I can't thank both of you and Ahmad. Thank you, and Khori as well. Thank you for taking time that I know has to be your very, very busy schedule to sit down with us at Foster's Forums. But first, also, when can we expect season 2? And please let everyone know of where they can listen.
Listen. When can we expect season 2? We trying to figure that out ourselves, honey. But it is coming at MUTHALOVE_. Follow us on Instagram so you can stay tuned to all things mother. We are definitely in the process of planning like some little in-between events so we can also connect with other moms, because you need a circle. It's just so important to like have a circle of people that get it, that understand. And so we're still trying to figure out when we want season 2 to be, especially considering the fact that things are getting back started, and we just have to figure out how we can connect that with our everyday lives, because when we start something, we want to finish it and we want to be able to give everybody 110%. It definitely is coming. We just don't know like an exact date just yet.
Can't wait.
But you can listen to it on Spotify and YouTube if you want to see lonely pieces, and Spotify.
I just my internet is unstable. Sorry. Here we go. It's back, I think. Of course. Great. So Chloe, Shonica, and Khori, thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll make sure on our website. So if you're watching this video now, or if you're watching it later, we will link the Mutha Podcast on our website as well. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider making a donation to Foster's at Foster's Residency on Venmo, or by going to our website, www.fostersresidency.org. Thank you again. Thank you, beautiful
and
children.
Congratulations, you guys, on doing this beautiful, beautiful work. We need more people like you guys. This work is so important that we don't just be artists, but that we are figuring out ways to use our art to better our community.
Yes.
This is beautiful. I love it. Please donate now. Get your phone out. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for supporting us and just, asking us to be a part of it, and recognizing that we are also still a part of the community.
Yes. We're all the community. Yes. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.